our franchisees to know like what actual business are we in. And I always view it as like we're in the relief business. We can do 10,000 pounds if you want us to sit here all day. My revenue all the way through December, and it's like junk removal.
Welcome to Franchise Focus. I'm Laura Blackmore. Buying a franchise is one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. The challenge isn't finding a good franchise, it's finding the right one, the one that's for you. So before you fall in love with any franchise, let's have a conversation. I'll help you look beyond the marketing and figure out whether it's truly the right fit or whether there's a better opportunity you haven't discovered yet. Click the link below and let's talk. My job isn't to sell you a franchise, it's to help you make the right decision. Welcome to Franchise Focus. Today I'm joined by founder and CEO Daniel McCarty. Daniel started Junkstart to disrupt the junk removal industry. He's included some unique ways of growing this business by including pay-per-weight pricing. Weights are included in the trucks, a strong commercial business, and a model designed to scale beyond a single truck. So welcome, Daniel. How are you?
Thank you, Laura. Super excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. Well, take us back. You started it 4 years ago, or take us back through, you're young, starting a business like this. How'd you do it? And what was the impetus behind it?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yeah, so we started the business probably about 4 years ago. And so I been in the waste industry kind of my whole life, family business. So we used to be in the mining business, and we had a hole in the ground. And long story short, about 40 years ago, our family permitted a landfill here in San Antonio. So we've been in the waste business for a long time. And so I was kind of about 4 years ago, we had sold a couple businesses during COVID, and I was thinking about what I wanted to do. And I always dreamed of building a really large, like wonderful franchise system. And I knew the trash world, and I wish I told you I had a grand plan, but it was like, hey, let's just do a junk removal brand, and I'll copy everybody else. Like it already works. And I'm dumb enough to where I thought that would work. And so we launched kind of with the idea, we just, don't recreate the wheel, just copy everyone and launched doing that way. And let me tell you, it was a rough couple of years. Like we had to find our footing, ended up kind of stumbling into what is now like our awesome differentiator, being the first and only pay-by-weight junk removal brand in the country. I'm so glad, kind of had to stumble through the forest to find kind of, where we need to sit in the market. And it kind of stemmed from, the landfill industry. And that's how we charge customers, is you run over scale and you're just charged by the pound. And so 50 years ago, we all kind of eyeballed stuff and charged by yardage or volume. It was kind of dumb. So we all switched to weight. And then for some reason, junk removal, everyone still did it by like the yard or the volume. And so I was like, hey, if we change to by the pound, I think it'd give us great pricing power, a differentiator. And I thought it could get us a lot more commercial revenue, and that turned out to be true.
And that's interesting. And how does that drive the commercial revenue? I know you have bigger trucks too than some. So how does that work?
Yeah. So the traditional model, which I used to do, is how much is it going to cost? And we go, well, let's go do a free on-site estimate. It's just how much room the items take up in your truck. But the problem is each truck is different. Each two guys looking at the pile are going to tell you it's going to be different. And then once they load, like if they're real motivated one day, maybe they Tetris it perfectly and it's a quarter of a truck. But if the same crew, the same job the next week, if they're after lunch a little lethargic, maybe they load it poorly and it's it's $400 more because they didn't load the truck very well. So it's super arbitrary, and it's hard for property managers to have any consistency because they don't really know what they're going to get charged any given job or day. And so for us, hey, here's your flat rate pricing. It is what it is. It's X dollars per pound. And so every time we show up, they know like it's consistent pricing. If the bill's a little higher, that just means they had a little more stuff. If it's lower, that means they just had a little, fewer stuff. And so, it's a lot more transparent.
It's fantastic. And as you start, so you started this as a regular junk removal. I know I do recall the transition in your revenue and how things really grew from there, which is fascinating. But you mentioned property managers. What's kind of the mix between residential and commercial, and how do you drive more commercial?
We started probably 90% business to consumer, so residential, just like most other junk brands. And after our transition, our most recent, item 19 numbers, it's over 60% B2B as of the filing date of the item 19. So we basically flipped the whole model on its head.
Wow. That is amazing. So not only adding the scales, which is a huge differentiator, does that add more cost to the truck? How does that work in terms of overall investment?
Yeah, so it's a little bit. We go with a little bit more robust truck that lasts longer and can haul more weight.
Okay.
Our trucks, because we charge by weight as well, we've built them about 40% larger than our competitors. Why? Because we charge by weight. Like, it behooves us to try and put as much stuff in the truck before we have to go drive across town and dump. And then the scales, we offer a leasing program. So I pay for all the scales up front, and I just lease them for a low monthly cost to the franchisee. So the upfront investment is not, any more than if you didn't have the scales. But yeah, that kind of, I'd call it barrier to entry is more expensive trucks, the kind of our patent pending proprietary stuff. But I view that as a way to get away from competition. So it is a little bit higher investment, but I think you're paid off in spades just by the added revenue and margin you can get from the business model.
That's brilliant. I mean, so just in a really honestly a short period of time, for all intents and purposes, 4 years, you completely flipped a market on its head, and you didn't initially intend to go in and do that, which is pretty neat. Walk us through, what an owner's day is like as a franchisee, I guess. What are the,
Yeah,
or maybe
absolutely.
when they start it's a business and
Mhm.
as you grow it, how does that shift?
Yeah, so we've got a great onboard and launch program. So our vice president of operations, Brian Cross, used to be the launch coach at College Hunks during COVID. So he launched
Okay.
like 40 or 50 owners at a time for a period of time. So he's really great at launching, junk removal entrepreneurs into the, fast. And so for us, you could start with a single territory, you could start with 2 or 3 territories, and we have a truck development schedule. So you'll just start with you can start with a single truck. You get out there before you open. We have a grand opening launch package that goes from, 45 days prior to opening to 3 months after. And that's going to be everything from, we're building your commercial pipeline. We're going through the sales process. We're getting you out in front of property managers, doing the local events. We're getting some of your pay-per-click and your residential marketing reared up during those first 3 months, right? We're driving leads on the residential side. We have our own call center, revenue center. We book all the jobs onto your schedule while you're building out your
Whoa.
commercial pipeline. So it's a lot of my uncle calls it like tail up and nose down, right? Like, we're getting to work, building the
Yeah.
pipeline on the commercial side, hiring your first couple crew members. And then every time, you hit a certain revenue threshold, cool, it's time to order another truck, another truck. You keep adding commercial accounts and your marketing efficiency keeps growing on the residential side. And it's a lot of fun. It's kind of a very systematic, hey, I spend this much time, I get this many leads, convert this many, and then every so often I add another truck, and then I add another truck. So it can be very kind of formulaic.
Do you get into the recycling side of things, or?
Sure, that's one of the cool things about junk removal is like we're positioned to where we can load the truck, to where the recyclables and the donatables are in the back of the truck. So we can leave a
Okay.
job, maybe it's a full truck, we turn around the corner, we can offload a quarter of that at Goodwill and drive a little bit further and recycle another, quarter of a truck at the recycling thing. And then it's great for the environment, of course, but also it's great for your pocketbook because now you don't have to spend, an hour and a half going to dump and come back. Like, you can go to the next job, and it really helps your operating margin when you don't have to take everything to the dump. So we're financially incentivized to recycle and donate. It's not just kind of like a, feel good story. It's
Yeah.
also like really good business as well.
So franchisees starting an area, what size is the territory?
It's around 400,000 people in a territory.
Okay. Yeah, I figured it'd be a good size. And you're saying you're building, the pipeline for the commercial side. So is it primarily property managers or?
Yes, our bread and butter is like property managers, really kind of like class B, class A minus. Like, you can imagine the really nice places, they don't maybe have as much, turnover in their units and stuff left behind. Class B and really like kind of C plus gets a lot of turnover. And so it's
Okay.
cool, like residential, if you think about your market, kind of the nicer upper middle class, affluent areas do really well in residential.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe sort of the middle income areas are maybe not as good, but those middle income areas are actually like the absolute bread and butter for our commercial property, B2B kind of thing. So it's really great. We take a territory, junk removal works, right? It's worked for 100 Got Junk, all these other brands for decades. And we're taking, hey, residential's still going to work over here, but now we open up the rest of your territory to this huge kind of recurring and reoccurring revenue in the commercial, property manager space. And I'm super excited about that, just driving more revenue density in each territory.
And so how does that bidding process work? And so you got a call center that's doing the residential
Mhm.
side. Are they also helping on the commercial side, or what is the owner doing in
Yeah,
that
we
role?
have a lot of great, we've got like a CRM system built out to kind of help, like, hey, here's our, lead process. We're from, first contact to, pitching to said yeses, the first job, the email sequence, the drip campaign, so they don't have to create, their CRM from scratch. We've got our business coaches ready to kind of help build them. Hey, here's where you should target. Here's what you should say in our initial training week, and also our ongoing, weekly coaching calls. We're holding them accountable. So we do. It's really important for us. So we invest a lot of time and effort, like training and ongoing training. Our CRM system it's beneficial to start as well, but also, as you can imagine, going forward, like we want to say, hey, you're doing really well, right? This is how many door knocks you're doing versus, hey, your neighbor's doing this. Have you thought about, maybe trying this other tactic? So we're really into systematizing all of our data sets to where, like, as we scale and grow the brand, we've got really cool operational data. Because I would want to know, hey, I'm in San Antonio. This market in Las Vegas is doing this a little bit different than you, and they have a lot better results. Like, you should try this, or this in Phoenix. Or so that's obviously the beauty of franchising, but that's what we're trying to build on the B2B, like the tech side that we're supporting our franchisees.
Wow. When you say door knocking, so when is that happening in the business?
That's mainly, I view that as like, hey, we're going to go by this apartment complex and go say hi to the property manager or assistant property manager. And, sometimes they'll greet you with open arms and sit down and listen. Sometimes, hey, it's going to take 3 or 4 times, right? And they may be having a busy day or a bad day, and like, okay, great. But we can show, hey, every 7 times X happens, right? Of the X, they said yes. And then of the Y, like Z actually followed through, right? So we've got it all kind of systematized to where we can kind of drive it where it's data driven and not, all based off feels.
Do you have a profile of who you think will excel in this as an owner, or?
Yeah, we're targeting, owner operators, I think, are going to do really well here. Like, they want to get in and learn the business and start with a truck in a single territory, de-risk it a bit. Hey, I want to learn commercial sales. I want to learn a little bit of the ops. I'm going to add a truck once I'm ready, right? Or a territory. That's going to work really well. And we also have kind of a more executive manage the manager model for those that are like a little more maybe well capitalized, want to take a bigger swing, to acquire, a sizable chunk, right? 2 territories, 3 territories. They want to start with multiple trucks, maybe a commercial sales team. They want to go out and kind of own and build a really big business. That's our goal. Our mission is to redefine, junk removal so completely that we become the largest and most trusted brand in the galaxy, right? So, like, make no mistake, our goal is to be the biggest in the industry. And so, like, we can't do that unless each one of our franchise partners, right, also has that mindset. So we're very much kind of looking for, we call it take the hill, but like, there's the top of the mountain. The number one guy does this, like in my market. Cool. Like, that's a good starting place of where I'm going to work my, tail off to get to. And so, like, we're looking for like really hungry people that want to build a sizable business, for themselves, their families, their legacy, all the different goals they may have.
What do you think will be the biggest challenge year one for your new franchisees? I mean, as they're learning the ropes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always setting the right, like, cultural foundation with your team, right? Like, as you're scaling, there's just times, right, when you're like, I have 15 problems. The fact that Joe's wearing the wrong shoes is like number probably 15 today. But like the little slip ups, that's always like, it doesn't bite you immediately, but long term, as you get 4 years down the road, the little stuff you let go builds up. And then it's always a lead. It's always leads, right? Like, so, hey, how do I make sure that I have enough, revenue and leads coming in to where we're scaling the business? So we've invested a ton on the consumer marketing side. We've got a great team, experienced team in the franchise world driving leads to our call center, right? Experienced call center team to book those leads. And then on the commercial side, just making sure that you get to that first property manager, and then the second, then the fifth, and you go to the events, and then you get a regional, right? And then you have 8 of their properties, and you just got to keep stacking days until you'll hit a point where it starts to kind of snowball. You just gotta keep working and making sure that you get to that point.
Are there some logical partnerships to do with partners that are going to refer business to
Yes,
you
for
that you've?
sure.
I mean, I realize that you're new, but yeah, any hopes and thoughts where you want to grow with that?
Yes, long term, I certainly think we can have the best, commercial national partnership program in the business. It's my goal. Like, I want to be the commercial first brand, and so a lot of the other brands will, hey, we partnered with Toys R Us, and every time they go bankrupt, like, you'll get a big clean out. Like, well, that's fine, but I'd rather give you, hey, we work with Graystar, we're on the preferred list, and like every
Yeah.
month you're going to get 16 jobs, not one big going out of business sale. And a lot of the big bucks, a lot of the other brands in our space kind of target that kind of one-off stuff, or like, hey, so I think there's really a lot of opportunity to drive kind of that more recurring, property manager stuff because the way our model works and how transparent and predictable it is. We're doing some cool things, kind of innovating on the, how do we come back every week or every 2 weeks, right? And turning kind of what sometimes used to be a one-time revenue business model to recurring. And that's the name of it.
Your energy is palatable, and it's amazing all the different things you've thought about, and you've already built into relatively a new franchise. So that is incredibly impressive. I imagine you're going to have no problem signing on, but there are some risks, right, for new folks, and back to you want people that are going to 100% succeed. So your first 10 franchisees may look different than your first, the next 40. But yeah, I would imagine this could turn into kind of a land grab. People start with one, they'd see how this can grow, and then quickly want to start gobbling up territories around them. What's the average investment for like a one territory versus if somebody tried to come in immediately with one of those bigger executive models?
We've got our midpoints. I think the low end of we can start it like below the 250 mark for a single territory and get up to, even with 2 territories, you could start with a single truck and then get on a development schedule. So that lowers your item 7. You'd probably be closer to 300,000. If you start with a 3 territory model, it's over 1 million people. Like you'll start with 2 trucks and then get on that schedule. 2 trucks is, if you got the capital, I like personally starting that way because you've got, just twice as much, surface area on your branding. You can go to a job 2 trucks deep. You could park the one at the local grocery store while you and your buddy get in and go do like, even as you're scaling and ramping, like that extra truck comes in handy. But I totally we wanted to build this model to where you could start with one and add over time to keep your overhead low, or for those that want kind of that 3 territory, over 1 million people population, want to start with multiple trucks, probably either they're going to do sales full time or they're going to hire a biz dev rep right off the bat, and rip it, rip the cover off the ball. That's going to be probably a, $350,000, $400,000 item, item 7 investment. So we've done a lot to try and keep the investment amount
lower. That's impressive.
Yeah.
So talk about, you talked about leads, always chasing leads, which every business, right? And as it develops over time, I would imagine that it becomes a very logistic heavy business with all the different schedules and timing. Do you have a plan or platform or a software that helps with that in terms of how they structure that?
Yes, for sure. It's a good question, Laura. So this business is great. It's like you start with a truck or 2 and then 3 and 4. And as you can imagine, the web just gets a little more complex and 5 and 6.
Yes.
And there's very big, you can Google it, like junk removal companies with probably 40 or 50 trucks, in their fleet in a single location. And so it is important to have, the right foundation, tech foundation. And so there's a lot of great, what I like about this business model is, there's AI headwinds, there's tailwinds, there's tech headwinds, tailwinds, like technology and sort of what we can do on the back end. I really do think we have kind of the wind at our back. So these softwares are getting better and better, routing, logistics, real-time sort of traffic flows, patterns.
Yeah.
We're able to dispatch and route hey, this truck's going to stay in the northeast part of this town or the southwest part of the town. And we're going to book jobs onto their schedule where they're not driving, all the way across town and back and forth. So we have some really cool tools and tech solutions now that make it, a lot easier. And I just imagine in 2 years or 4 years from now, it's going to be probably leaps and bounds even more effective.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. How many trucks did you have in your original location?
I know the item 19 says we have at least 4 here, and I feel like that's what I'm supposed to stick with. But yeah, we have at least 4 here at our founding location in San Antonio.
Very cool. Very cool. And doing very well with that. But I can't imagine having 40 or 50. That's got to be. But eventually some of your locations might have that. What do you think is important, or what are you looking for in terms of when people come in that they're asking and they're really wanting to understand in the model? What do you hope every prospective franchisee asks?
Yeah, I hope they understand okay, what's the essence of the business model, right? And so okay, for us, we're in an urgency-based business, and it's you've got stuff and you have a problem and you want it gone, right? So first and foremost, our scales are cool, it's great, but also, hey, I have stuff in my garage, come get it. And like, cool, we're fair, fast, and easy. I'm going to come, I'll be there in 30 minutes. I'll take care of everything. You don't lift a finger. We'll be in and out in less than 20 minutes. Like, we got a much, much, much fairer way of doing it for sure. You're glad you didn't call those guys, but like, boom, we'll get out of here. Boom, I'm going to donate and recycle this. Like, hey, can I have a five? Was your service great? Like, we'd love to, leave us a review. Boom. And like, that's the essence of the game. And on the B2B side, hey, I got a problem. I'm a property manager. I got a million things to do. And oh my gosh, like 6 units left stuff in there. You know what? Junkstart, they just solve all my problems, right? You show up, oh yes, ma'am, Miss Jones. Like we'll get right on it. Like it ultimately is a relief kind of customer oriented business model. Of course, like I think about it a lot. Of course, like, how do we position and counter position ourselves to where our brand resonates? We've got differentiators. I invested a ton in the IP and patent pending, and I continue to try and strengthen all the structural advantages of our business model. But ultimately, like most of us in this brand need to just focus day in and day out on like delighting customers, making it super easy to work with us,
Yeah.
leaving them feeling great. And like business can be complex, but ultimately it usually comes back to like, how are you creating value for your end consumers? And like we're still, I always want our franchisees to know like what actual business are we in? And I always view it as like we're in the relief business, we're in the take care of your problems,
Yeah.
and don't complicate it. That's ultimately what.
I didn't think about the, quote, urgency of it. Although,
Mhm.
when, I think about how I am with things, and when you make a decision, you do, you just want it gone. Is that going to be difficult with, especially like a residential job? You got this big truck. Does it make economic sense to run out and do that
Right.
right away?
It's
Or-
it'll scare people, Laura, probably at first. Like if you come from pest control and you're like, hey, it's January, I can see my revenue all the way through December. And it's like junk removal. A lot of weeks you start, you're like, there's not that many jobs on the schedule today. And you're like, yep. But like, especially on residential, you trust the process. Like your marketing's working. Hey, like a lot of our stuff is same day or next day. It's probably 70% of our business is, hey, like we'll be there within, same day, next day. And like obviously as you scale, I love commercial revenue because we're already doing the recurring work, and then I can add a job. I'm already over there and I just pop over and do it real quick, a residential job.
right.
But the more you scale, there's scale advantages. The more trucks you have, usually like the more trucks you're spread out. So like the next job is like usually not as far away, right? When you have one truck, it's a little bit more of a logistic thing. But as you build your second, your third, your X the number, it actually gets it's harder to logistics, but it also like your the next job is normally like not as far once you add like kind of truck density, if that makes sense. So the more you scale, usually I think like the more your margins can kind of improve and you get some efficiencies.
Can you do multiple without removing stuff from the truck by literally
Yes,
subtracting?
that's
I was
great.
at 100
Minimizing.
pounds.
Yeah. What's cool is like you do a job and then like you could donate some, recycle some. It's great. Like you want to do as much revenue as possible in your truck before you need to drive to the
Right.
landfill or disposal site. And so that's a key thing. That's why having real, much bigger trucks lets us do that. And like, making sure if we take care of recycling and donating like we should, right? Up to 50 or 60% of our stuff normally can get repurposed or recycled. We don't do it all the time, but we do our best. Like that's kind of the opportunity on the high end. But yeah, that's the kind of the name of the game is trying to pack
How
it
does
full.
the scale work? I mean, literally, so if you've got
Mhm.
100 pounds on and you bring in more stuff,
Yes,
is
I
there
need to
something
do
that's
more
tracking that, or are
more
you,
content on visualizing it for folks. But like imagine we have a big dump truck and in
yeah,
between the dump bed and the chassis, the long metal part where the wheels are attached, we have scales. And so they ride around, you can't really see it, but when we get to a job, we press a button and it lifts off and it's kind of like free floating. And so I could hang off this, I have a big screen and it says 0 pounds tear weight. And then I could hang on the side and you could see it go up from 0 to like, 100, 200 pounds. And you're like, oh, you're not supposed to see that. Like, you can make fun of it with your customers and then they could see it go from 0 to 10 to 50 to 100 to 600 to 655. And ultimately the customer's in charge of what they pay because, hey, we'll keep going. Like, what's your budget? Like, it's not like a winner. It's not as much zero sum. Like, it's $600 or nothing. It's like, okay, I know your budget. Like, it's X per pound. Let's get started. I'll get the most important things. And like, hey, you're at 200 pounds so far. Great, Miss Jones. Hey, now you're at 400. Now you're at 600. You want to keep going? Great. Like, it's a really cool model to where it's not as adversarial of a sales relationship. It's really like, hey, we get paid by, we get charged by weight to dispose of it. Like, we're just bringing
hmm
that to you. Like, how much you want to get rid of? We can do as much as you want. We can do 10,000 pounds if you want us to sit here all day, or we could do 10 pounds, like whatever you want.
wow, wow. Any great stories that you have from your San Antonio location?
We have a lot. I know, like We just opened our first franchise location in Omaha, and
Okay.
it was like funny. Like the very first job they had, Tim and Quincy, it was like this massive hoarding job. And they're like, "Hey, is this going to be every job?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, it's not." But that's same with us when we first opened. Like probably like our fifth job was some like probably the worst hoarding job today. That's how it always happens. I feel like, but those jobs
Really?
can be very interesting. And that guy actually, that is a good story. It was a horrible. Like it took probably a week and a half of like 6 people clearing out the house. It was this crazy job. And it was a renter. And so like the homeowner really got kind of screwed on that one. But like about a year later, I got a call to go give an estimate. And I looked around and like it just looked familiar to me, like the items or the way they were stacked. And I go, what's this guy's truck look like? And it was the same renter. He had just gone from the first job, kind of screwed that homeowner. And then a year later, some poor person, unfortunate owner had leased him the house and he did the exact same thing. And then that guy had to call, Junkstart. So he's kind of a repeat client of ours, if you
Yeah.
think about it. But no, that's probably the weirdest things.
Very interesting. Anything else that you want to share with people? I mean, this is fascinating. You took all of us by storm at the convention that we were just recently at with a bunch of franchises that, when you can stand out amongst a lot of franchises there, that's a huge effort. But it's so fun to watch somebody come in and just flip something a little bit and see the impact it can have operationally, because you're coming behind it with a ton of support, which is very impressive and so needed in the franchising world.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So super proud of our team. We've invested a ton, have some of I feel like the best people in franchising on the ops and marketing, but it's really testament to them. One thing I do know is like we're an emerging brand, right? Just brought on our first location. And like you said it earlier, like there's risk and there's reward, right? So
Yeah.
like I'm under no illusion, right? Hey, when you're franchisee number 5 or 10, like you get treated differently than number 50 or 100th, but there's also a little more risk. So we're not trying to impress anyone to say like, hey, we have all of our stuff figured out, right? Like we don't, but we're humble enough and I hopefully, think as a team we're smart enough to know that, hey, we don't have it figured out, but I guarantee you, like we're going to work like heck to make sure that as we build this thing, we're putting our franchisees and their goals and profitability in the forefront. We're investing for the long term. I'm not trying to sell this business in a year or 2 years or 5 years or
Yeah.
even 10 years. Like we did that, been there, done that. Like I'm 31. I want to do this for 50 more years, God willing, and just see
Wow.
how big we can go. Like that's kind of
That means a lot to a lot of people. So that's important to know. I think that's a valuable, important note there. So no doubt about it. I am very confident that you will be growing this to a very large business. It's fun, and I look forward to working with your team.
Yes. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thanks again for joining.
Yeah.
Okay.